we go. We're waiting. Oh, yes, there it is. Hi, Ashley.
Hey, what's up?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I was like in such a rush because our cleaning lady came late today. So like I was stuck outside for the longest time and I was nervous I wouldn't like be able to make it back in here, but it's all good.
Looks like you're in your reseller
Yeah.
reservoir. Okay, good. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Where are you joining us from today?
Dallas.
I love it.
Yep. Luckily, I'm glad that like daylight savings, it's light out right now, because if this was like 3 months ago, like it would be so dark in here. I have the worst lighting at night, so this worked out great.
I know. I'm so happy too. I'm so happy you're joining us. And I really was so impressed when I saw your stats because, whoa, we're about to dive into it. But hey, I'd love to and just introduce this session again.
Sorry, can you repeat that? It just broke out a little bit.
Oh, no worries. I'd love to introduce you and introduce the session.
Oh, yeah, of course.
All right, here we go. So, hi everyone. I'm Alex. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at List Perfectly, and today I am joined by Ashley, aka Recloth Collection. And for those of you that don't know what a Superseller Session is, it's essentially an interview here on the List Perfectly Instagram every Thursday at 4 p.m. PST with tips, tricks, and no BS advice from who we're calling the best resellers in the world. And I have to say, I agree. Ashley, you are amazing. For those of you that don't know Ashley, you need to be following her. She's been reselling for just a little over 2 years and has already hit over $200,000 in sales. Ashley, whoa. That's amazing.
Keep going. It's crazy.
No, really, that's amazing. And also 3,000 items sold. For tuning in today, you are entered to win a month free of List Perfectly, so stay till the end. And also, at any time, you can join with the code RECLOTH for 30% off your first month and a 3-day risk-free trial. So that's our intro. Ashley, let's just dive in and tell us how you got started in this crazy world of reselling.
Okay, so I kind of have a funny story and confession. So how I got started reselling, like mainly on Poshmark and stuff like that, is my college had like these donation boxes, which were kind of like, it was the best thing ever. It was essentially like the bins in like this rich college dorm where people would donate their stuff, and like we weren't supposed to go through it, but like everyone kind of did. And so I had gathered this stuff, and like me and my friends, we were RAs, we were like planning to take it to like Plato's Closet and things like that. But I knew these items were like worth more than $4. I was like, I'm not getting just $4 for them. So I sought out ways to like sell them on the internet. And one of the first ways that I started selling on their internet was actually in the sorority Facebook like buy sell trade groups. And I think you were the admin of one of them, Alex. Like I swear to God, I was
yes. One of the biggest ones.
Yes. So like that's how we started. And it's so funny that like you've come all this way and I've come all this way, because I've definitely remembered you like from that. Like how long ago was that? Like
yard sale.
Yeah, it was, yes. Like I started selling on there, and then I was like doing that in Poshmark kind of around like the same time, but I was selling a bunch on like Facebook pages and stuff too, to get rid of like the stuff that was a lot more just like niche toward like that group of girls and stuff. So, and then I just grew on Poshmark and was getting rid of that inventory that I essentially was getting for free. So I wasn't sourcing, I wasn't really like learning how to resell. I was just kind of like getting these clothes for free and just like selling them. And then I did that like on and off for, when was that, like 2016 to like 2019. And it wasn't until like 2019 that I started. I was like, I'm going to, like, I can make like a business out of like going to thrift stores and reselling. And so that's like the stats and everything I take into account is like from 2019, because that's when I talk about myself starting to resell. That's what I look at, because that's when I was actually going out, finding clothes to resell and like really trying to promote and have a business, versus like it felt more like just like selling my own closet in a way when I was having this like other stuff. So that's kind of how I got to where I am.
That is so funny. I'm even more thrilled right now. We didn't connect outside of this about that, because that is so awesome.
Yeah, no. So those were great groups. I mean, I feel like I learned a lot about like style and stuff then too, and like what kind of sold and like what girls wanted, and they were popping. Like they became like went downhill, but like I feel like when I had found them, they were like, that was the way you sold clothes. So yeah.
Absolutely. I started off on Facebook groups as well. That's how I got introduced to the world of reselling. So that is so funny.
Yeah.
And a reminder to anyone as we go through the session, please drop your questions. I'm seeing a lot of you guys saying hi to everybody, and drop your questions in the chat. We'll go through them at the end. But that is so awesome, Ashley. We found each other years ago. We are doing a Superseller session years later. I love it. Okay, so tell me what marketplaces you sell on now and where you see the most success.
Yeah, so the main marketplaces would be Poshmark and eBay. Poshmark being like far superior compared to eBay. eBay is still growing, but I'm hoping to change that. And then I still like have tabs in my spreadsheets for like Tradesy, but that is like I'm lucky if I sell like one item a month. I think I haven't been cross-listing over there for a while, so it's currently mainly just the two. I've just found that a lot of the other platforms, the return isn't as high to be able to even listen. It was to a point where I was selling so much and having to go through and delete and forgetting to delete it, and like the platforms weren't doing anything for me. So those are the two that I found are worth my while.
I'm happy to hear that, because I think these numbers really show so much success on two platforms. So for those of you that are, using List Perfectly or thinking about using List Perfectly, it's not that you have to sell on 11 platforms that we offer. Just going from one platform to one other platform, we're seeing that people are getting about 40% increase of sales. So a little less than half of what they make on their main, they're now adding as revenue on their second platform. So I really do recommend, just even it's worth it just to go from one to two.
Yeah, and to me, I feel like the biggest thing I always hear is people like only selling on Poshmark, and I think it's the best thing to use like List Perfectly to even get onto eBay, because the biggest part of eBay and the hardest part is really like their listing process as well too, and that's kind of what scared me. And honestly, like I wouldn't have like been able to cross list and feel as comfortable as I did if it wasn't for List Perfectly, like being able to help me like put everything in, because it is very different. And I still to this day like would feel so weird and not really know what I'm doing if I had to start from scratch like on eBay. So it's helped so much.
I'm so happy that you are finding, so much value out of List Perfectly. And that's normally a question that I ask later down the line, but I'd love to just jump into it now. So for those of you that are watching that don't know what List Perfectly is, we're the #1 sell and grow your business. We offer tools like cross posting, as well as inventory management, analytics, and more. And for those of you that know what cross posting is, essentially it's a way to quickly copy and paste your listings from one place to other marketplaces, save about 80% of the time that it takes to list by copying details for you. So filling out the photos, title, description, keywords, tags, brand, color, depending on what plan you use of List Perfectly, we have 3 plans. You'll get more details copied with each plan. So it just really does cut that listing time down. Ashley, I'd love to hear in your own words, what are you using for and what?
Sorry, it cut out just a little bit again.
Oh, what are you using List Perfectly for, and what's the process? How is it helping you?
Yeah, so because I like to cross list everything as soon as it gets on, as soon as I post it, so it gets cross listed like the next day. So I find that especially with eBay, I've learned with eBay too as well, because it was before the cross listing was only happening maybe like once a week, but now that it's doing every single day, I definitely see an increase in sales. eBay is very similar to like Poshmark. The more active you're on it, the better. And so sometimes, especially on the days like if there isn't enough time or anything, List Perfectly is really great to just, it kind of cuts out a lot of that barrier, even like a mental barrier if you have it, to be able to put it over. So that's like a huge thing. And even I haven't been cross-listing things to my website as much anymore, but I'm hoping to change that. And that's another thing that I love about the service, because being able to cross-list to Shopify is such a great thing to have, because I even think I didn't start cross-listing to Shopify until List Perfectly added it on. So I don't even know if I would feel comfortable like putting stuff on from scratch again. It was just so much easier when like everything is able to be put over.
Honestly, I couldn't have said it better. I totally agree. And for those of you watching that are kind of, how should I use List Perfectly? I love Ashley's way of doing it. I do it the same way. I cross list immediately when I list. So I'm listing on multiple platforms at once. but you also can crosslist to, you know, your one platform, and later on go and cross. I just saw that I'm seeing that someone's having technical issues. So if you guys could just chime in and make sure you can hear us clearly, that would be amazing. Just let us know you can hear us and we're coming in clear. Okay, so Ashley, what is your top selling brand, category, or style? What is, like, where are you seeing the success?
Yeah, so definitely starting with, I think it's better to focus on that question with like the categories, because I do definitely focus on like top selling categories that have like a higher like ASP price. So like dresses for sure, sweaters and jackets. I rarely ever touch like pants and jeans really anymore, unless it's like very specific brands, or like shoes I'm very picky on, mostly because I hate shoes in general. And like tops, especially sleeveless tops and tank tops, like I rarely touch, just because the price of them isn't as high, or it's just not worth my time to like go through so much stuff where it would have to be like a very like specific top to like be worth my while. So those are the three by far that I would say that I have. And then in terms of brands, it varies so much, just because I'm always trying to learn new brands. There are just so many brands out there, and that's why I love to like specialize in brands and learn about brands, because the biggest thing from where I started to where I'm now is just my brand knowledge and just knowing what can sell and does sell well. But like some top contenders, and a lot of these are pretty like common, just because they are more out there as well too, versus maybe like a one-off brand that sold really well that like isn't as common, but I'd be so happy to find again. But just some things off the top of my head, like I love selling Veronica Beard, like Nilly Lowton, like of course like Spell Me Gypsy, like Ace and Jig, like Johnny Was, what else? Like Alexis, I love selling those. A lot of quote unquote like Revolve brands, but more of like the high end ones that just happen to be also sold like at Revolve, if that makes sense. I kind of don't really like that term anymore. I don't really like the term like Revolve brands anymore, but it's kind of easy to call it that. But those would just be some things that pop at the top of my head. But I just love finding like the one-off pieces where like I can't even think right now, just like small brands that I would love to sell that I've never found yet, or like Misha and Puff and Selkie dresses, and The Vampire's Wife, and what else? And what's the other one? There's one called like Baba that I really want to find. It's like the sweater. So there's so many brands that like they're just so rare, and it would just be like a dream to come across them.
Oh my God, Ashley, you really know your brands and your styles, I can say. So I think that's something that all of us can aspire to. Knowing, I'm going to pick this up. Maybe you guys can hear me a bit better. So knowing your brands is really important. Having that brand knowledge and making sure you know what you have when you come across it, because if you don't know the brands, you're going to be missing out on some really big sales.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that I always try to do is and this like comes with time, I've learned, but if there's a piece that just like stands out to me and I've never heard the brand anymore, as long as it's like quality, as long as it's not like super cheap and I can tell like it's nothing good. But if I've never seen the brand before, there's a very good chance I'm going to be looking it up. And even when I'm online sourcing, if something just like kind of looks really cute and I'm like, I've never heard of that, and I'll look it up, like I've learned a lot about brands that way as well too. So always like researching brands that you don't know about is like the best thing. I don't think I did that too much when I started.
I love it. That's really, really smart. So what has been your biggest sale to date, and like what's the story of how you found it?
Yeah, I think so far, I think my best sale has been and I had posted about them like a while back, but they were like these like thigh high like Christian Louboutin boots. And I think I had bought them for like $375 and they sold for like I think $1,500. So I was really happy about it. I not gonna like kind of wanted a little bit more, but still like very happy for the sale. It's still I think my biggest to date. But it was at like I got them at this like consignment store that I usually go to, and I got them like in the summer, so they were having like a fall boot sale. And I originally like saw them and I was like not gonna get them. And I was like, these are too expensive. And I was like shopping around, and then I forgot why I went back to them, but I did. And I was like, you know what? Like, and this was kind of like when I first started to, I wasn't picking up as many items that were expensive. So this was like one of the most expensive things I've ever paid for. And I was kind of like nervous, but I went for it, and it's obviously really glad that I did. So shopping sales, like seasonal sales, is always like a really good time to, even if things are still expensive, to get them at like that 70% off, 80% off price, because just, it's not worth it to these stores because they're out of season, but if you're willing to wait, it's worth it to you because the season will come. So
that's such a good point, because especially with a brand like Christian Louboutin, where the style itself is what people want, and they'll come across it. You know, it doesn't matter to the person that's buying it on the resale platform that it's not this season. They just fall in love with the style. But for the actual store that's selling it, they need to make room for their spring, summer. So like the boots come in, and of course they'll sell the next fall, but they just don't have store space for them. So they'll mark it up. Honestly, I've never thought to source that way. That's very, very smart. Very good super seller trick.
Yeah.
I love it. And we're having so many questions come in, so I definitely want to make sure that we have time for that as well. So, okay, my last question for you before we get to audience questions and our winner is, what is some advice you wish you could give yourself when you first started reselling?
So if I had to like go back to myself, and this advice still might not apply to everyone, but I would definitely say, you know, find things that are worth your time. Don't feel like you have to just be stuck at what you have at like a thrift store. Like, open your eyes to like other things that are around you, to online, to consignment stores. And also don't just like pick up stuff that, you know, you see everyone else posting about. Like, I didn't really understand. Like, I was just watching like all these thrift hauls and videos, and like it was like, I was like, okay, this person picked up that, and the people picked up like Anthropologie too, so like I must do it. But I wasn't really understanding like what they were selling things for, and I wasn't checking comps. I had no idea. I just was doing it based off the fact that others were doing it too. But really, you know, doing not just what other people are doing, or at least like really thinking about why people are doing it, and deciding if that's the way you want to run your business, because we all run like different businesses out here. So you can't just like take what like I pick up versus somebody else, because they're going to be like totally different. So you have to figure out like what works for you. So I would say that, and then just like the number one, like the basic number one thing, just like check comps. Like, you have to kind of know what's like things are selling for, and also don't just pick up something for the brand, because that is something I did 100% when I started. It was like strictly on brand. I picked up the ugliest like Armani, Classioni, and like blazers and like all this like mature AF like clothing, and I thought they're like, this is like $1,000 retail, so like it's gonna sell, and like I cannot sell it for $10 like on the internet for like whatever. So that would be the biggest thing I would say, because that was a lot of items that I regret, and I am still to this day like donating off. So don't pick up that stuff.
I love your tips. And I think, just again, if I'm learning anything about, you know, super selling right now, I think brand knowledge is really your super strength. Obviously, checking comps has helped you learn what brands are good, but it's just knowing the outside of the everyday brands. And it's just so smart, because I'm sure, you know, I've already looked at your Poshmark. You have so many brands. Whereas when I go to other Poshmark closets, it's like the seller's buying the same 20, 30 brands. And you also have to realize, people are searching on Poshmark. Most people are buying by brand. So they're actually going to the brand's page and then, you know, seeing what's in there. And when you have so many brands on your page, you have more exposure across the entire marketplace itself.
Yeah. Yeah. But the one thing I will say though that I think Poshmark needs to fix is, I mean, I have a lot of brands, and like finding a lot of brands where, because they're so small, like Poshmark is at a point where like if I were to search by brand, it's not like a searchable brand, which is really annoying to me. So that's one thing I really think they need to fix, because there's like a lot of really high like end brands that people are looking for that, or they don't have, because I think like no one's really sold them because they're not out there as much.
So Manish, if you're watching this, we're talking to you. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I love it, Ashley. So let's take some questions here from the audience. Your two top selling platforms are eBay and Posh, but you mentioned Shopify. How do you do on Shopify? This one is from Diverse Thrift. So thank you.
Yeah. So I stopped really doing on Shopify because I wasn't really selling anything on Shopify. My platform doesn't really market like my clothes as much versus knowledge. So like it's not a surprise to me that, I was actually just talking to my boyfriend, like I'm thinking about maybe starting like a different Instagram account that is more geared toward that, just because it's very important. It's really hard to mix the two together. So that's why I stopped, but I would love to like get back on. I've probably sold like maybe like five sixth thing. So if you haven't sold like anything on a website, don't be discouraged because like I haven't either. So
Okay, so where do you recommend to buy your high quality inventory?
So, I mean, all my stuff I buy at like consignment stores, buy sell trade stores, and online, and because I focus now on all that kind of stuff, and so that's like the three different areas that I source at. It's really hard. I really don't find the stuff at the thrift store. It's like I went thrifting today, and like the best thing I found was like a Johnny Was top, and that's it. And it's workshop, so still good, but like I don't find the thing. I would never find the things that I sell like in a thrift store.
Very, very good advice for those that are especially trying to go to the higher end. I mean, some, areas have it, but other areas really don't. And you do have to go outside to consignment shops and get creative, with online sourcing as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How do you know the right price to list your items from? I'm going to just try to say the username, but I apologize to anybody that isn't said correctly. Happia Doe.
So in terms of pricing, I do like check like solds. I have learned because now I'm running out of space. I'm trying to push a lot of inventory. I have learned that if you're trying to push inventory, definitely just like price. I've almost come to a point where I'm not checking for comps and I'm just like pricing it lower at like $25, $50, just like to hit the filter that people are searching in. So in terms of, it depends how long your item is sitting for, or if it's just like a bread and butter item, it's definitely better to price lower, I found. But in terms of like my higher price items, I just searched like the comps, and I have gotten like a feel like based off like how it sells in my closet. Like if I've sold like Jimmy Choo heels and they've sold around like 150 before, like I had them post them at 200 before and sold for 150. Like I'll sell them, I'll post them for around the same price as the other. So you kind of just get a feel, but also just like what the market is. But when I look at comps, I still also look at like, what's the condition of the ones I have sold, like not just like for face value. You have to like dig into the post and see, what might be, why did this one sell lower if it is an outlier, or like why did this one sell higher if it's an outlier. So really looking at the outliers versus the averages and like making like an analysis based off that.
Ashley, you're seriously amazing. Like I can't believe how much I'm learning and everyone else. I'm like scrolling through these questions, listening to you. People are like, excellent advice. Thank you. Great point. I'm learning so much. So it's great to have you here. Okay, we'll do a few more questions. So Monty the Blue Cheese is asking, in the beginning, should you just stick to one brand like Lululemon?
Definitely not. Definitely, I think it's good to go and just, I mean, you can, like everyone has their own thing and can do well with it. But and just like from my business, what I've done, I personally pick up like just whatever sells. So if it's going to make me money, I don't care. That's why I don't get attached to things. Cause I'm like, it's money. Like, I don't care what, like, it's not for me. Like I'm selling it. So I don't look at items and like see the cost or see what it is. I just like see profit. And that's what for my business. Sorry.
All right. So we got a bunch of money hanging behind me.
Yeah.
All right, so Cap G7, do you have your own storage unit? Where do you keep everything? And I think this is just a question, I guess, what is your inventory management?
Yeah, so I have everything in this second room in my apartment. We have a 2-bedroom apartment, and I kind of just took this over. I'm really outgrowing to the space. Like I am processing things quicker because I'm having help, and I'm just outgrowing it. And I'm currently looking at like office space and like even a place in my apartment here, but I'm very picky on like the price I'm wanting. So it's actually something I'm currently looking into right now, but I'm making do with what I have here.
I could totally see you with the showroom. I'm just putting it out there. I could totally see it happening.
Well, one of the things that we have a park and it's like this nice area and they're trying to like rebuild it. And my boyfriend's like such a networker, like I'm not. And he was like talking to this person at the park and she ended up like being a part of the park. And he was talking to her about like the offices they have. And she was talking about the things that they're looking to do with the park. And they might want to have like redo some of these old buildings out here because I live in like an historic area. And they're wanting to maybe do like pop-up shops. And he was like, oh, I'd love that. I was like, I would love that. So that could be in my future.
I see it. I'm feeling the energy around it.
Yeah.
Okay, so fashion finds online. Do you think it's important to list whether it's consigned or thrift in your item description?
Definitely not. I never say anything. If even people ask me questions about like how many times it's been worn, I'll be like 5. Like I don't know. Like how much do I think it's been worn? Like I don't say any of that in my stuff. Because also some people have like bad like conceptions about thrifted items. You never know. So like Yeah, I just leave that out.
I think when it comes to buyers, say everything they need to know
Yeah.
to get the item and actually know what they're going to get when they open the box. That's super important because they aren't seeing, touching, and feeling it the way that you are. So just give them every detail about the item that they need to touch, see,
Yeah.
feel. But
Yeah.
outside of that, the story of the item, how much you got it for, anything like that, it's just not
Yeah.
necessary. Even if you took, let's say you fixed it up, you bleached it, you don't need to share that.
I pretty much just state, like, my like rule of thumb with descriptions, like just state facts. Like, don't state opinions, don't say how good you think it is, just state the facts, like what's wrong with it, what's not wrong with it, and move on from there. So yeah.
I love that. Okay, so that was a really good thing to recap. Also, you're suggesting or advising that you don't do the opinion of like great find, like, or anything like that, because you just kind of keep it very, I would say, professional of what you would see on a website.
Yeah, yeah. And like you learn, I mean, people don't really read like they must not read my descriptions based on the questions they ask me in the comments. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's more for like searchability reasons and stuff like that versus, I mean, at the end of the day, some people read it, but like some people, they just like see keywords and they're like, okay, I like this or not. So.
Awesome. Okay, so like one more audience question, one more question for me, and then Ashley will announce our winner and let you get back to your lovely night. And I'm sure, your very busy job. So what does your typical workday look like, and what do you have your helper do from Diverse Thrifts?
So yeah, my work days like vary so much just because my full-time job, like Mondays are very busy because I have meetings.
Wait, you're not doing this full time and you're making how much money?
No,
Oh my God, I'm literally.
My job is like very, like, I do like have flexibility and I'll like work sometimes like throughout the day. Like I always, of course, put my job first and like emails and things like that. But I will, but having people help me like has been really helpful just because my job is in a growth phase. And so it has been getting busier. So as I've like growing with my reselling business, be able to bring people on, and as my job is getting busier, it's kind of work together. So I mean, I currently like wake up, sometimes I work out in the morning. I'll wake up at like 6 and like work out, and then I'll like usually like look at emails first. I have somebody now helps me with photographing, and she comes on Tuesdays, and I have somebody who comes Mondays and Fridays to help with like measuring and putting items away. And she also does my listings and sends out my offers. So they really help a lot, and I'm so thankful for that. And then a lot what I do is in terms of like sourcing and just like going through the items if I get them online, because it's a really important thing with online sourcing is you have to still like check your items to make sure that they're in great condition and you still want to sell them. And then I will like I'm like very like neat freak, so I organize and vacuum my room a lot. And that's like a lot of it too, so it varies so much. Yeah, so I don't really have like a day-to-day structure.
So I will say, Ashley, you have someone helping you with listing, and I'm sure they would be working 10 times the hours they are if it wasn't for List Perfectly. So I really do want to just advise that whether it's you or you have a helper, that's how you keep your costs down, is by giving them tools like List Perfectly that help keep their hours at a reasonable amount.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, oh my God, you guys, we have so many questions for Ashley. You were so awesome. Please leave your questions on this video. One of the questions was, where can I find this? This will be posted on the List Perfectly Instagram as well as our IGTV. We will most likely be repurposing it on our YouTube. And just, I guess I'm going to give a little teaser here. We might be moving these Superseller Sessions to YouTube so that even more of you can join and watch from any device. So we are going to do our winner now, Ashley. But before we do, I just want to let everyone know that you can join List Perfectly with code RECLOTH for 30% off your first month, 3-day risk-free trial. I highly recommend it. Ashley, of course, highly recommend it. And yes, I'll let you kind of say your last few words about LP. For people that are on the fence, what do you say to them?
Honestly, like I honestly just don't know what like life would be without it. I just am so happy with being able to like cross list, and growth is just so important to me, and it's so hard to grow on one platform, and you are just like cutting yourself and your business so short if you're not cross listing. And like, yes, you can technically cross list without like a service, but it just takes so much more time, and as resellers you're already doing so much, it's like not worth your time. You're better off spending your time like sourcing. And like that's a big thing about my business is like you yourself, like you need to develop yourself and like be at a point where like sourcing's the main thing. So like putting all your time in this like medial stuff is like not worth it. So like really getting the cost of like List Perfectly is just like a no-brainer, you know, just to go ahead and do it.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And our winner tonight is Karen Elena 2. Congratulations. We're going to DM you with Ashley in just a few minutes. And congratulations, you're going to win any plan 1 month free. So much. Ashley, seriously, you're amazing. Such an inspiration. I can't believe how full circle our stories have come as well. And it's so great to chat with you tonight. Thank you for being an amazing member of the LP family.
Thank you for having me on. It's honestly like such an honor. Like I'm really, really thankful for this.
Of course. Have a great night, Ashley.
Thank you. You too. Bye. Bye.